There is a kind of tiredness that sleep cannot fix. You wake up after a full night of rest, and yet something in you still feels heavy, not just in the body, but somewhere deeper, somewhere that no nap can reach. If you know that feeling, I want you to know this: you are not simply getting old, and you are certainly not alone. Millions of older adults carry this invisible weight every single day. A weariness that lives in the bones, in the heart, in the quiet corners of the mind. Buddhist wisdom tells us that this kind of tiredness always has a root, and where there is a root, there is also a way through. Today, we are going to look at 7 of those roots together, gently, honestly, and with great compassion for where you are right now. 1. The tiredness that comes from living in the past. There is a particular kind of exhaustion that no one talks about openly, and it is this: the exhaustion of carrying yesterday. Not bags or luggage, but memories, regrets, conversations that ended badly, choices that still echo, versions of yourself you wish had done things differently. Many older adults spend enormous amounts of invisible energy in the past. The mind replays scenes from decades ago as though watching a film that never quite ends. And while memory is a beautiful part of being human, living inside old pain is one of the most draining things a person can do. It is like running a car engine in a garage with no destination. The fuel burns, the exhaust fills the space, but you go nowhere. In Buddhist thought, this is described as the suffering of clinging, holding tightly to what has already dissolved. The past is gone, not partially gone, completely gone. Existing only as a story, the mind tells itself again and again, and every retelling costs energy. Consider a woman named Dorothy, 74, who used to wake each morning with a deep sense of dread she couldn't explain. Her body felt sluggish even before the day began. Through gentle reflection, she discovered she had been mentally relitigating an estrangement from her daughter that had happened 11 years earlier. Every morning, before her feet even touched the floor, her mind was already deep in that old wound. Her Buddhist teacher offered her a simple instruction: you cannot change what has been, but you can choose where your attention lives this morning. This is not about dismissing the past or pretending wounds don't exist. It is about recognizing that the mind is a garden, and wherever you place your water, something grows. If you water old regrets daily, they grow tall and block the light. The practice here is one of gentle redirection. When the mind drifts backward, acknowledge it with kindness, the way you would acknowledge a child tugging at your sleeve. Yes, I see you. I hear you. But we are here now. Then return your attention to the breath, to the room, to the small, real, present moment in front of you. The Buddha said, "Do not chase the past or long for the future. The past no longer is. The future has not yet come. What remains is now, and now, if we learn to inhabit it fully, has more than enough room for peace." Releasing the past does not mean forgetting those you loved or erasing what mattered. It means setting down the weight of what cannot be changed, so your hands are free to hold what is here. And when the hands are free, the spirit slowly begins to breathe again. 2. The tiredness that comes from a silenced heart. There is something that happens quietly over a lifetime of caring for others, of being responsible, of being the one who keeps it all together. Somewhere along the way, many people, especially older adults who gave so much of themselves to family and work and duty, learn to silence their own inner voice. They stop asking what they need. They stop noticing what brings them joy. They stop listening to the part of themselves that whispers, "This doesn't feel right," or "I am not doing well." And a silenced heart is an exhausted heart. This is not a character flaw. It is often the result of a lifetime of beautiful sacrifice. But the body keeps its own record. Suppressed emotions do not disappear. They settle. They accumulate like sediment at the bottom of a river, and over time they slow everything down. The tiredness you feel may not be physical at all. It may be the weight of feelings that have never been given permission to exist. Buddhist teachings speak of the importance of inner honesty, of being a true witness to oneself, not with judgment, but with the same gentle attention you might offer a close friend who is struggling. The first step of this is simply asking with real sincerity, how am I actually feeling today? Not "I'm fine," not "I shouldn't complain," but truly, how am I? A man named George, 78, a retired school teacher who had spent 40 years giving everything to his students and his family, came to a mindfulness group after his doctor told him his fatigue had no medical cause. In his first session, the facilitator asked him when he had last done something purely for himself, something that asked nothing of him and gave only pleasure. George sat quietly for a long time. Then he said, "I honestly cannot remember." That moment was the beginning of his awakening, not a dramatic one, but a slow and tender one. He began keeping a small journal, not to record events, but to record feelings, simple ones. "I felt sad today when I looked at his old photograph. I felt something lift when I heard that piece of music." Naming the feeling gave it a place to land outside the body, and the body, slowly, began to feel less burdened. If this resonates with you, try this today. Place one hand over your heart, close your eyes, and simply ask, "What have I been carrying without saying?" You don't have to solve it. You don't have to share it with anyone. Just give it a moment of honest witness. That witnessing alone is a form of healing, and a heart that is finally heard, even only by itself, begins to find its lightness again. 3. The tiredness that comes from fighting what cannot be changed. Of all the forms of exhaustion that visit us in the later chapters of life, perhaps none is more draining than resistance, the quiet, relentless energy we spend pushing back against things we cannot change, a body that moves more slowly, a world that looks different than it once did, losses that cannot be undone, a future that holds more uncertainty than comfort. We resist not because we are weak, but because we love life. Because we remember what it felt like when things were different. Because change, especially the changes that come with aging, can feel like a series of small griefs arriving one after another with very little warning. But here is what Buddhist wisdom teaches us with extraordinary gentleness. Resistance does not stop change. It only multiplies suffering. When we fight what cannot be changed, we are not protecting ourselves. We are exhausting ourselves fighting a tide that has no interest in stopping. The word the Buddha used was dukkha, often translated as suffering, but more precisely understood as a kind of friction. The friction between how things are and how we believe they should be. And it is this friction, not life itself, that wears us down. Think of a woman named Evelyn, 81, who had been a passionate gardener her entire adult life. When her knees made kneeling impossible and her eyesight made fine detail difficult, she fell into a prolonged low mood. She was not just grieving the garden. She was resisting the reality of her changed body with every quiet thought. I should still be able to do this. This isn't fair. I used to be stronger than this. Her granddaughter, studying mindfulness, gently introduced her to a different question. Not why is this happening to me, but what is still possible within this. Evelyn began growing herbs in raised containers at counter height. She couldn't kneel, but she could still feel soil between her fingers. She couldn't see the fine detail, but she could still smell lavender in the morning air. The garden didn't come back, but Evelyn did. Acceptance in Buddhist teaching is not passivity. It is not giving up. It is the radical, courageous act of meeting life exactly where it is, and from that honest ground, finding what is still available, still beautiful, still yours. When resistance loosens, something remarkable happens. The energy you were spending fighting reality becomes available again. And that returned energy feels, to many people, very much like waking up. 4. The tiredness that comes from disconnection. Human beings are not meant to be islands. We are relational by our deepest nature, wired for connection, for belonging, for the warmth of being known and knowing others. And yet, as the years pass, many older adults find themselves slowly, sometimes without fully noticing, becoming more and more alone. Friends pass on. Children move far away. Familiar communities dissolve. The rhythms of daily life that once brought casual human contact, a job, a neighborhood full of familiar faces, a community of shared purpose, quietly fade. And what takes their place too often is a silence that begins to feel less like peace and more like absence. This kind of loneliness is one of the deepest contributors to chronic tiredness in older adults, and it is perhaps the least spoken about. Because loneliness carries a shadow of shame. We live in a culture that implies that to be alone means to have somehow failed at belonging, but that is not the truth. The truth is that disconnection is one of the defining experiences of modern aging, and it deserves to be met with honesty and compassion, not silence. Buddhist teachings place extraordinary emphasis on the concept of Sangha, which means community, the company of those who are walking a similar path. The Buddha considered Sangha one of the 3 most precious things in life, alongside wisdom and the teachings themselves, not because community is comfortable, but because growth, healing and joy are almost impossible in complete isolation. There was a man named Harold, 77, who had retired from a long career in engineering and moved to a smaller town to be closer to his son's family. Within 2 years, his son had relocated again for work. Harold found himself in a town where he knew no one, with long days that blurred together and a tiredness that woke with him every morning. His doctor suggested a weekly gathering at the local Buddhist meditation center. Harold was skeptical, insisting he wasn't the group type, but he went once, then again, and within a few months, had people in his life who knew his name, asked after his week, and sat in comfortable silence beside him. "I didn't realize how much energy loneliness had been costing me," he said later. "You may not live near a meditation center, but connection exists in smaller forms too. A phone call made instead of waiting to receive one. A note written by hand and sent. A consistent greeting to the neighbor you pass each morning. These small acts of reaching out are not trivial. They are, in the deepest sense, spiritual practice. They are the antidote to one of the oldest forms of human tiredness." 5. the tiredness that comes from a life without stillness. Here is a quiet irony that many older adults know well. After decades of wishing for more rest, more time, more stillness, the stillness finally arrives, and it does not feel the way they expected. Instead of peaceful, it feels empty. Instead of restful, it feels restless. The mind, trained for so many years to be busy, to produce, to manage, to plan, does not know what to do with silence. So it fills it with worry, with scrolling, with the television left on, not for entertainment, but simply for the sound of another voice. And this constant, unconscious filling of silence is itself exhausting. Because the mind never truly rests. It only switches between tasks and anxieties. Buddhist tradition has always understood that true rest is not the absence of activity. It is the presence of stillness, a quality of inner quiet that is cultivated, not stumbled upon. And it is perhaps the single greatest gift that spiritual practice offers to those in the later chapters of life. The difference between silence and stillness is important. Silence is external, the absence of sound. Stillness is internal, a settled quality within the mind that can exist even in a noisy room. It is the feeling of being fully present without needing anything to be different than it is. A woman named Clara, 73, described her retirement as being handed a gift I didn't know how to open. After 40 years of nursing, the sudden absence of structure left her feeling disoriented and inexplicably tired. A colleague introduced her to a simple daily practice. 10 minutes each morning of sitting quietly, not meditating in any formal sense, simply sitting with a warm cup of tea and making no demands of herself or the moment. At first, Clara could barely last 3 minutes before reaching for her phone. But slowly, day by day, the 10 minutes became something she protected, something she looked forward to, a small sanctuary within the day. She said, "It's the only time when I'm not waiting for something to happen or wishing something hadn't." That is stillness. And from that stillness, energy returns, not the urgent, restless energy of busyness, but something quieter and far more sustaining, a calm aliveness that carries through the whole day. If you have no stillness practice in your daily life, consider beginning with just 5 minutes. Not to achieve anything, not to think the right thoughts, simply to be. The mind will wander. That is natural. Each time it does, gently return. That returning is the practice, and the practice over time becomes the peace. 6. The tiredness that comes from forgetting your own worth. There is a form of exhaustion that is invisible because it carries no name in ordinary conversation. It is the tiredness of feeling unnecessary, of sensing in the quieter moments that your best contribution is behind you, that the world has moved on and left you standing in a chapter the rest of life has already turned past. This feeling is more common than most people dare to admit. And it is corrosive in a way that physical tiredness never is, because it reaches into the very foundation of motivation, of meaning, of the will to engage with another day. Buddhist wisdom speaks often of Buddha nature, the understanding that every living being carries within them an inherent dignity, a wholeness that is not earned by productivity and cannot be diminished by age. You were not born worthy because of what you could accomplish. You were born worthy, completely and already, and that worthiness does not retire when you do. But many people have spent so long defining themselves by their roles, parent, provider, professional, caregiver, that when those roles change or fade, they experience what feels like a loss of self. And in the space where identity once lived, a quiet but devastating tiredness moves in. A man named Vincent, 80, a former architect who had spent his career designing buildings that still stood across 3 cities, fell into a deep malaise after his retirement. His children were busy, his grandchildren lived far away. He felt, as he described it, like a building no one had a use for anymore. His path back began unexpectedly when a neighbor asked him to help design a small community vegetable garden. It was nothing like what he had done professionally, but it required his hands, his eye, his knowledge, and it required him to show up. Within weeks, he was teaching neighborhood children how to read blueprints adapted to garden layouts. The tiredness didn't vanish, but something brighter than the tiredness appeared alongside it. Purpose. Modest, local, unglamorous purpose. But purpose nonetheless. You carry decades of experience, insight, patience and perspective that the world still needs. Perhaps not in the ways it once did, but in ways that are no less real. The question is not whether you have something to offer. The question is only where and to whom in the particular chapter you are living now. When you remember your own worth, not as performance, but as truth, the spirit does not just awaken, it stands up. 7. The tiredness that comes from not knowing who you are beneath it. All we have traveled through 6 forms of tiredness together, and each one has pointed, in its own way, toward the same quiet truth. So much of what exhausts us is not life itself, but the layers we carry between ourselves and life. The old stories, the unfelt feelings, the resistances, the hungers for connection we haven't voiced, the stillness we've never allowed, the worth we've forgotten. But underneath all of it, there is something that none of these layers has ever touched. Something that has been present since the first morning you opened your eyes and will remain present until the very last. Buddhist teaching calls it awareness itself, pure, open, uncluttered consciousness. Not the thinking mind, not the worrying mind, not the mind that replays the past or rehearses the future. Something quieter and far more vast than any of those. And here is perhaps the most important thing this tradition offers to those in the later years of life: the possibility of meeting yourself, perhaps for the first time, or perhaps again after a long absence, at this depth. Many older adults, particularly those who have been through significant loss, illness, or transition, report a strange gift that arrives alongside the difficulty: a new honesty, a willingness to stop performing, a growing disinterest in pretending. And in that honesty, something opens. A woman named Margaret, 82, who had outlived her husband, most of her close friends, and her professional identity, described a moment that changed everything for her. She was sitting alone in her small apartment on a Tuesday afternoon, with nothing particular to do, and instead of reaching for distraction, she simply sat. And in that sitting, something she described as a kind of peace I had no right to feel given everything arose. She didn't know to call it anything. She simply felt, perhaps for the first time in decades, that she was enough. Not because of what she had done or who she had been to others, but because she was here, breathing, present, alive in this strange and ordinary afternoon. This is the awakening that Buddhist wisdom has always pointed toward. Not a dramatic event, not a mountaintop moment, but a simple, quiet recognition. Beneath the tiredness, beneath the loss, beneath the accumulated weight of a whole human life, there is something in you that has never been broken. Something that does not need to be fixed, earned, or proven. The path to this recognition is not complicated, though it does take courage. It asks only that you spend a little time each day in the kind of honest stillness we've spoken about throughout this reflection, that you bring kindness to your own experience, that you practice seeing your thoughts and feelings without becoming them, and that you allow yourself, slowly, tenderly, to become acquainted with the one who has been here all along, watching, wondering, persisting, surviving, and underneath it all, at rest. The Buddha taught that liberation is not something added to us from outside. It is something uncovered from within, and that uncovering is available at any age, in any circumstance, in any ordinary Tuesday afternoon when you finally stop running and simply sit. You are not just a person who is tired. You are a person who carries within them the seed of a peace so deep it outlasts every difficulty. And that peace, once found even for a moment, changes the way every day is lived. If any part of this reflection stayed with you, let it. You don't need to act on everything at once. Even one small shift, one moment of stillness, one act of self-compassion can begin to turn the tide. The spirit awakens not in grand gestures, but in gentle daily returns to what is true. You are still here. That is not nothing. That is everything. If this touched you, please share it with someone who might need these words tonight. And if you would like more reflections like this one, rooted in Buddhist wisdom and spoken quietly to the soul, subscribe to Mindfulness and walk this path with us.